Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to AY Voice interview program. And this week I will have an interesting topic which we will touch upon the China role as the mediator in the Middle East. And we are having Professor Joseph Matthew, who is a senior professor at the Belty International University, and he will be discuss with me on the mentioned topic. So, greeting, Professor, and welcome to AY Voice interview program.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor to be here again.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor, for your time and your presence here to touch on the China role as the peacemaker in the Middle East. So without further delay, I'll start our discussion. So, Professor, China has been upping her diplomatic charm offensive in the Middle East in recent years, framing itself as a peacemaker between long-standing rivals in the region, and it reflects the broader ambitions of China in the global diplomacy and economic influence, in which China has involved in several key aspects from diplomatic engagement, economic partnership, multilateral forums, humanitarian assistance and development to cultural diplomacy. And China has been playing the roles through facilitating the re-establishment of diplomatic ties between the Iran and Saudi Arabia back last year in April 2023, and lately the facilitation of national unity deal between Hamas and Palestinian rivals. So on the other hand, while China economic interests drive much of its engagement in the Middle East, its role as a mediator highlights a strategic effort to enhance its global standing. Through fostering dialogue, promoting development, and facilitating cooperation, China seeks to be seen as an important player in the quest for peace and stability in the region marked by the prolonged conflict. And however, the effectiveness and long-term implication of this role remain to be seen. So, Professor, once again, China's growing involvement as a peacemaker in the Middle East represents a significant shift in its foreign policy approach and has raised several questions and discussions regarding the role in conflict mediation. So, first of all, why is China interested in becoming a peacemaker, or we can say the mediator in the conflict in the Middle East, and what are the intentions that China has put forth in this approach?
Thank you very much for your quite lengthy comments on the questions. And why the China involved in the Middle East crisis, and why China role as a mediators. There are three main reasons of this of China involvement in the Middle East crisis. One is geographical location of China and the Middle East. Second is the economic reason, and third is the social. You must know that the Middle East is a part of Asia. China is in Asia. Middle East is actually geographically is a backyard of China. Why I'm saying that? Because China geographically connected with 14 countries. I mean, China have a border with the 14 countries. And one of the country is Pakistan. Pakistan is not only connected in the north with China, but in the west is connected with the Iran. So now if you look at the geographical location of the China with the Middle East, is China, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, and now is very close. Geographically, China is very close to the Middle East. So this is one of the reasons, and why the China involved in the Middle East, because it is right in the backyard of China. And also the Arabian Sea is a very important shipping line for China, which is in the Persian Gulf. So it is a very important ship route, which have $1 billion of the cargo they pass from the Arabian Sea. So this way and the Persian Gulf shipping route is very important for the Chinese trade and economic development. So this is the first reason. Second is social reason. Second is the economic reason. Now, in the economic reason is that China Belt and Road Initiative, most of the Middle East countries are part and the partner in the Belt and Road Initiative. There are 22 Arab countries. Most of the countries are part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So Belt and Road Initiative getting through from the Middle East and go up to the North Africa. So it is a very important route for China for the Belt and Road, and there are so many investment in the infrastructure development of the Chinese and the country like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. These are all partner in the Belt and Road Initiative. So that is the second reason, economic. Number third is a social reason. China wants to see the Middle East more stable, vibrant area where there is economic development and social and economic prosperity. China does not want to see the Middle East in the political turmoil and conflict, because if there is no peace in the Middle East and continue to have a conflict, it will definitely affect to the Chinese economic and also the region at the large and the world also. So these are the three main reasons: geographical reason and economic reason and the social. These are the three main reasons that China has involved in the peacemaking process in the Middle East.
So thank you, Professor, for such a comprehensive explanation on the reason why China like to be the peacemaker in the Middle East. However, I'd like to know, how does the role that China is playing work in the region as a peacemaker?
That's a very interesting question, because there are so many Western media, they're raising the question, the China new role or China emerging role as a mediator in the Middle East. Now, if you look at it, the last year, on March 10, 2023, China meditated between two countries, Iran and Saudi Arabia. So China bring these two countries reconcile and bring the reconciliation between these two countries last year in March 10. Now these two countries was fall out and they were not talking. They have a conflict for last 8 years. So 8 years they did not have any diplomatic ties. They did not have, and the tension was high between these two rivals, because these two countries are the sort of like a big economic power in the Middle East, Iran and Saudi Arabia. So they are very big economic power in the Middle East. So having a conflict between these two powers is completely destabilizing the whole Middle East. So China step in and bring the reconciliation and brought these two countries to agree on the point, and then they signed the reconciliation agreement, and then they restored the diplomatic tie after 8 years. So that was the biggest breakthrough for China in the Middle East, and that actually created sort of like an awareness in the whole Middle East and the Arab world that China have resources, China have an ability to bring the peace or reconcile the different country or different faction who are fighting with each other. So this reconciliation between the Iran and Saudi Arabia had given the big boost of confidence and trust in the China ability to negotiate or work as a mediators. So when the 7th October, when the Hamas attack on the Israel and the war started in Gaza, so all the Arab country was looking towards China to act as a mediator and come up with some idea for the ceasefire. So all the Arab country delegation, they went to China, they spoke to the China, and China was that time agree to help them to negotiate this. But if you look at the Palestinian problem, they do not have only problem with the Israel, but they have their own internal issues. So there are two parts of the Palestine. One is Gaza, and the second is West Bank. Now, Gaza is controlled by Hamas faction, and the West Bank is controlled by Fatah. Now, you look at this, one country, two factions are controlling. Apart from these two big factions, there was another small faction. They are fighting. So, Palestinian, there wasn't any unity government in the Palestine. So that is the biggest. They have an internal problem. They're fighting with each other, and the outside that they don't know whom they will talk if they have to negotiate with the Palestine, whom they will talk, because there are 14 factions and they're fighting with each other. So when the China step in as a mediator, so first he thought that first they have to reconcile this all, different faction on the one platform under the one leadership. So they have a unanimous stand on any issue if they want to discuss with other party. So the China, they invited all the 14 faction in July 21 to 23 in Beijing, and they allowed them to discuss this thing, and they were agree on the point that but in the Gaza post-war, they will be having a government of the national reconciliation. They will be having a government of that unite all the faction of the Palestinian, and they have a unity government in the post-Gaza war. So after that, this all 14 faction, they sign, and they have that signing agreement is called the Beijing Declaration. In the Beijing Declaration, all the 14, they are agree on the point that in the post-Gaza war scenario, they will having the unity government of the national unity, both on the West Bank and the Gaza. So it looks like it is a very moderate achievement, but it's a first step and very significant. And this step will go in the long way. It will go in the long way in creating the independent Palestinian state in the future. This is my view about it, because this is a very important step. Because from the last 60 years, these many countries, they were intervened in this matter and trying to make them to negotiate and reconcile and come together on the one platform, but they were completely failed. So the China succeed where the other country failed. So this is a very important and very significant step, the first step toward the creation of the independent Palestinian state in the future.
Yes, it's quite interesting for China to achieve such a big achievement in the Middle East. How China worked to compromise the conflict and the life war to be united again. So on the other hand, we are aware that a China approach to the Middle East is characterized by caution, neutrality, and efforts to distinguish its foreign policy from that of the United States. So from your observation, Professor, how does a China approach differ from her rival powers towards the policy in the Middle East, particularly on the political, economic, and the development aspects?
Yeah, actually, the China role is very significant now, because China is emerging political, economic power in the second biggest economy in the world, And the most important is that China have earned the trust and the confidence of the almost all Middle Eastern countries. So that will be take them to in the future will take them as a probably negotiating and paving the way for the independent Palestine. Now, the other country, Western country and other country, why they were not able to achieve this thing is because they do not have a trust. China have a policy of the coexist and non-interference. This is the most important and the cornerstone of the China, foreign policy. So the China believe that for the negotiation and for the settlement, the conflict, there should not be any precondition for that. And only the dialogues, through the dialogue and through the political settlement is only the way that you can achieve the peace. So I believe the China will be effective leader in the Middle East. I see the unforeseeable futures. So what I believe the China role will be in the future will be defined not as a peacemaker but peace guarantor. He will become the peace guarantor in the Middle East. China will be guaranteeing the peace in the Middle East. So we are looking the transformation of the Chinese leadership from economic to the political and political to the negotiator and mediators in the Middle East.
So, last but not least, I'd like to hear from your perception towards the future scenario of China, who is now playing as such a significant role, as you said, in the Middle East, and also the implication for the global geopolitics, as well as the prospect toward the China roles to in its implication to the great powers rivalry.
Actually, yeah, this is, if you look at President Xi approach to the world is completely different from the Western approach. President Xi, the 4 initiative, number 1 is a Belt and Road Initiative, which is responsible for developing the infrastructure in the world and connectivities. Secondly, the China Security Initiative. The Global Security Initiative, because the GSI is a Global Security Initiative. Then you have a GDI, Global Development Initiative. And then we have a Global Civilization Initiative. Now, these all initiative is a comprehensive strategy of the President Xi to bring the peace and reconciliation and the development in not only in the Asia, not only in the one part of the world, but globally. So the President Xi has been very vocal about the multilateralism and polarization of the economy, and he strongly against the unilateralism and protectionism. And he believed the unilateralism and protectionism is actually undermining the economic development in the world. So the world should be like a global village. That's why the vision of the President Xi. So I think in the future, what I said earlier, China will be playing not only role of the mediator, he will be playing as a peace guarantor in the not only Middle East but all over the world.
Thank you so much, Professor. That is all for our interview today. So I'd like to end it here. And once again, thank you, Professor, for your time and your insightful explanation on our topic today on the China role as the peacemaker or a peace mediator in the Middle East.
Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will see you again next week.